Hi guys, it's Eve again, the Nerdy Nanny. In a previous craft, I mentioned how I have an impressive collection of knitting needles. I know, very cool, right? And I do. These are different widths, different thicknesses. They're called gauges, depending on how close or how loose you want what you're making to actually be. And the reason I bring this up was because I actually learned to knit during a time when we were all stuck inside. I learned to knit in 2015, back when I was in high school. For those of you who weren't in Florida at the time or who are too young to remember, you may not know, but Hurricane Wilma hit Florida back in 2015, and it was a hot mess. We had 3 weeks of no school, I think it was, and at least 2 weeks of no power. I taught myself how to knit with a pamphlet I got at the grocery store and some number 2 pencils. Also, I figured, since some of you might be looking for something to do, I could show you how to knit. So what you're going to need is either 2 pencils or 2 pens. Choice is up to yours, depending on what you have lying around. The big thing is that you want them to be the same thickness. Like, get the same type of pen if you can. Pencils are all pretty much the same size, so that's not a big deal. It does help if they're the same length. And you need them to be sharp enough that they have a point, but not sharp enough that you're gonna like stab yourself. And we're going with this color. It's a pretty color, but mostly we're going with it because it's very easy to see. So here's how this is gonna work. You have the end of your thread, and you're gonna make a little loop. See? You just cross over like that. Now you're not gonna tie it here. You actually loop it all the way around. See how this is going behind now? Oop, nope, flip back over. And you're going to tie this bit to this bit. So let's see if I can do this in a way that you can see. See? So those two bits are tied together. So when I pull, this loop can actually slide. This knot slides on this string. See that? So that knot that I just showed you is very important because it makes your loop adjustable. The pen with the loop is in your left hand. Your right hand goes in so that both tips are there. You take the string and you wrap it between the 2 pens. What you want to do is you want to slide this pen down so that, boop, see that? See this string between the 2? You want to slide this pen down so that when it comes out, the string is wrapped around it and you have a loop. Now once you have the loop on this side, you're going to put it back on this pen. So see, this pen goes in and you just sort of keep it there and you pull a little bit so that it's not all swiggly. Ignore this little jingle-jigger here. We'll cut him off later. So now you have 2 loops. All knitting is attaching a string of loops to each other over and over and over again. Like that's literally all it is a string of loops. So we're going to go again. In. Now both pens are in one hand. Between. Loop. Now you have another loop over here. And off. So we're just going to keep doing that for a little bit. Your first knitting project is going to be very uneven. It doesn't really matter how good or bad you are at it. That's just a rule of thumb. Your first thing is going to be uneven. There will be dropped stitches. We'll get into that later. So don't make anything too big or you're going to get frustrated when you spend hours and hours and hours working on it and it comes out looking not so great. Your first thing you should try to make is probably like a square, about yay big, so that you can sort of just get used to it. I'm going to do 10 stitches. You could go as high as 20. I would not do more than 20, and I would not do less than 10. Anywhere in there is absolutely fine. 12 nice little stitches on one pen. So what we're going to do, these are your casting stitches. When you create the stitch, they go onto here. Now, when you want to actually knit, it's a little different. You're still going to start with the work, which is the bit with the knitting on it, in your left hand. Just like last time, you're going to make a stitch. But instead of pulling it all the way through and looping it back, when you make the stitch, you are just going to boop, slide that one off. Did you see that? Okay, let's go again. This one goes in, and just like last time, you run the string between. You pull it through, but instead of switching, you just boop. That's it. Now see how those two stitches are over here now? We're going to go down the line and do that until they're all over. If you need to pause this video at any point and go back and look at what I was just doing, go ahead and do that. This is a completely take it at your own time kind of thing. Trying to rush knitting is just an excellent way to get frustrated. This is going to take some time, but once you've been doing it for a while, it's actually very calming. You can make some really cute stuff. We finished all of our stitches, and now they're all on the right hand needle again. So what we're going to do is take this needle that has the work in it. Remember, the work is where your stitches are. And we just do this. We take it from our right hand to our left hand. Grab that other knitting needle, and we're going to go again. It's a little uneven. Now, I've been knitting for a while, but number one, I'm using pens. Number two, I'm trying to figure out two different camera angles while I'm doing it, which is not working. So if you need to revisit any of the previous steps, go ahead and do that now. I'm just gonna speed through the rest of this. Remember, a couple of top tips. Always make sure that your string is slack. Some of you might see me tugging at it on occasion. You want it so that when you pull at it, there's no resistance. If you pull and you meet resistance, it's just unspool some more yarn. And then the other thing is your work will always start in your left hand and end up in your right hand. And then when you're done, you just switch it over. So I'm going to do this for probably 20 times. And yeah, then we'll have a little square. So see you after 20 times. So after you've done some number of rows, I think I said 10, maybe 20. To be honest, I kind of lost count. I knit while I watch TV, so, but you should end up with something kind of like this. Anyways, now I'm going to show you how to finish your lovely little project on this. So same thing as before. It's really hard to talk to both cameras. You're going to sort of scooch everything up so you can reach it. And you have your work in your left hand and your active needle in your right hand. Go through the loop, hold both needles in one hand, and then slide it off just like before. Go through the loop, both needles in one hand, and slide it off. Now here's where things change, okay? So you have 2 stitches on this needle now. What you need to do is kind of go backwards. You take the needle with the work and you're gonna pull up that back stitch, the one that's closer to the end of the pen, and you're gonna pull it up and over your first stitch. So now you only ever want to have 1 stitch on this knitting needle. You can pull this a little tighter if you need to. If it starts to get loose, it might get hard to handle, but and then you just keep going. So these are closing stitches. In and around, just like normal, and off. And now when you have 2 stitches, you're going to need to use your fingers a little bit to pull the thread off and poke that in. And then you just pull it around. See that? So I have the other stitch. I kind of cross over that front stitch and pull it around so that only the one stitch stays on. Into the back loop, over the first loop, and off. Okay, now we're down to the last one. We're down to the last one. In loop stitch to the back, then into the back loop, over the first loop, and off. So now what you end up with is one single stitch. All right? You're going to cut the thread. You want plenty of material, so you don't want to cut it too short, but you know, like there. We can always trim it later if we want to. Basically, you want to have like a whole knitting needle's worth of thread. That's not for any reason other than it's easier. So now you have this. What you want to do, take this thread and poke it in. I'm not doing this very well. Take this thread and poke it into the hole where your loop is. Now slide the loop off and pull. And you end up with a knot at the end. I can't really redo that because once it's tied, it's done. So if you need to rewatch that bit, go back and rewatch it. And we have it. This is our nice little piece of work. Now, if yours is uneven, that's absolutely fine. You will get more regular with this the more you do it. This size is just about right to be a nice little blanket for my little beanie boo. See? He looks so cozy now. Hello! So, I hope you liked this video. I know Harriet really likes her new little cape. And, stay inside as best you can, wash your hands, and be good to each other. Bye! Matt Smith or David Tennant. Chris Eccleston was okay. Wasn't that into the Scott, and I'm really behind, so I haven't seen much of the new girl. She was okay. Funny accent, though. She's from Sheffield, love. Oop, out of frame again. Those are really hard, because I got two cameras I'm looking at. Alright. 13, 15, 18, 17, not 7, 17. You know. Whatever. I'm terrible about keeping this in frame. I apologize. It's very slippery, so I keep trying to pull it into me to keep better control over it, but that doesn't work with filming. I wonder if I pull this out. Oh, that works. That works much better. I'm a genius. I learned how to angle camera frames. And also remember where the button is that works how high my seat is. Stupid knitting. I forgot how slippery pens are. These are really slippery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay.